What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to my last video on the Breville, my review of the Breville Barista Express. I had it for like maybe a week when I did that review. I've learned the machine a lot more in the past 3.5 months of having it. I love the machine. So years ago I was really passionate about coffee, but I really had no idea how to make good coffee. I was literally just pouring as much coffee as I can into a filter in my Chemex, pouring water into it and saying, okay, that's good coffee. I'm doing it like they do at the coffee shop. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't at all. I didn't know anything about grinding, how fine the grind should be, how coarse the grind should be, how much water to use, how hot to use the water, the scale, using the scale. All that stuff seemed overwhelming to me, so I just didn't want to do it. However, when I figured it out, I was like, wow, this is really good coffee. Just put a little bit of time into it, make a good drink. So I wanted to get an espresso machine and I wanted to work in coffee. So back in January of 2019, I went and got a job at a coffee shop that, it is a local shop. It's run a little bit like a Starbucks would be, where everything's kind of automatic. I didn't have a lot of control over the espresso machine. I literally just got to watch seconds go by, and I was told if you're pulling a shot and it's 22 to 26 seconds, it's a good shot. So I went with it. I was like, okay, cool. Being a photographer, shooting completely manual, I knew deep down inside that pulling a shot manually was going to be far superior than an automatic machine. So I knew there was something more to have. I reached out to a couple local shops in Nashville. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. As you can tell, my buddy Bill makes these shirts. And one of the guys responded to me, invited me into his shop to talk to me about coffee. I literally went in there for coffee, like mentorship. I wanted to know a little bit more about coffee, stuff that I could probably find on the internet, but it's so much better when you could talk face to face with somebody. And at that meeting, the guy actually offered me a job. And that was super cool because I wasn't going in there to look for a job. I was literally just going in there for some information on coffee and coffee business. And so if you're like me, you are learning, you're trying to figure stuff out, your knowledge isn't that great, but you want to work in coffee, put yourself out there. Go to your local coffee shops, talk to the people that work there, try to figure out who runs the shop, who owns the shop, get to know them. You might get a job. And what better place to learn how to make great coffee than a small local run coffee shop? It's the best place and it's a great experience. So if you're looking into working in coffee, put yourself out there. Don't wait until you have it all figured out. Go learn at a coffee shop. So anyways, I had this machine for about a month before I got that job, and I was trying to learn this while I was working with an automatic machine at my other job. And this was far superior than the automatic machine in my mind, but I couldn't make a good shot, so I was like frustrated. When I got my job at the coffee shop that has manual machines, I got to learn a lot more. Then I got to figure out how to better use my machine here at home. So with this machine, I cannot change the pressure as it's pulling a shot. All I can do is make the grind finer and tamp harder or less, use more coffee or use less. There's certain things you can do to change your pressure. If you're watching this video, maybe that's one of your issues. Maybe you have too much pressure and not a lot of coffee's coming out. It's just like brrr, and like dripping out. That's not gonna be good, so you don't want that. Or maybe you're stuck down in the pre-infusion area and it's not getting into the gray zone at all. You're having too coarse of a coffee. That's what your problem is. So you want to find that good range for your grinder, which that's going to change on how fresh the coffee is. Again, fresh, fresh, fresh. Get good quality coffee. Every time you put a new coffee in there, chances are you're going to be changing your grind setting just a little bit. But that's something you'll figure out as you go. So what I figured out for the coffee that I have in my hopper right now is the grind setting 5, and what I have figured out for how much coffee to use is 18 grams of coffee in my portafilter. So since my portafilter was just used, there's a little bit of dampness in there and actually a couple of grinds of coffee left in there that I need to wipe out. So start with a clean portafilter. Get yourself a nice scale. I'm going to put a link to this scale in the video if you want a really good scale. But this scale is pretty expensive. It's like $250. So beware. You can totally get a scale at Target or Walmart or Amazon if you prefer. But get a pretty good one. Spend at least $25, $30. Don't get those super cheap ones because they really just don't register weight very quickly. So you might have something on there and it still says 0 until you put a little bit more weight. So I would get a nice quality scale. So I've got my scale. I'm going to set it to grams. I'm going to tear it out. I'm at 0. So now this essentially weighs nothing. I'm going to get 18 grams of coffee in here. Alright, so I've got 18 grams of coffee in my portafilter. Now I need to go ahead and tamp it. And then when you set the tamp on there, go ahead and kind of use like the center, not like down in your palm, but like at your joints. And then put your fingers down because you want to have a nice even tamp. And the way you can tell that is just by your fingers touching at the edge of the portafilter and the tamper at the same time. And you only need to push to where you start to feel a push back. You do not need to shove that way down. So for what that is, just press until you feel a little pressure back. Wipe off the edges. Throw it in there. Now I'm going to talk about something a little different. So before I pull my shot, if you've got shot glasses, you can set your volume to 1 ounce or 2 ounces. That's where you've got your 1 cup or your 2 cup. The way you set the volume is by setting that underneath of your portafilter, pressing the program button, and then pressing, right now we're going to be doing 2 ounces. You would press the 2, and then as soon as it gets to the 1 ounce on each of the cups, or if you just got 1 2-ounce cup, as soon as it gets to the 2 ounces, press that button. What that's going to do is it's going to tell the machine this is about how much water we want to push through to get the volume size that they're looking for. However, if you're going by volume size, you're not going to get a super consistent, it's going to be consistent, but as soon as you change your grind, anything, everything's going to all just get thrown off. It's not going to pull the same volume every time. So when I was doing that for a while, it worked. I was happy with it. Everything was great. But once I got the job at the coffee shop and I was really pulling manually and pulling to scale, I like that way better. I'm able to pull a better shot. So I actually put these aside and I actually pull my scale underneath the machine. Once I've got my scale under the machine, I'm going to put my cup under there. I set my scale to a timer. I tear it out to 0. What I'm looking for is, this is going to change with your coffee freshness, your grind, everything, but the numbers that you kind of want to aim for to make sure you're getting a well extracted espresso shot, 25 to 28 second pull and a 40 to 42 gram yield of espresso pulling into the cup. That's going to get you into that zone where you're like, okay, now I can make incremental changes to get a better shot. Maybe the yield would be better at 40, or maybe the yield would be better at 43 grams. And maybe when you do this, it's taken like 40 seconds. Well, you're probably pulling way too high of a pressure and you've got too fine of a grind. So the quickest way to get back down into that time zone that you want to be in, make that grind a little coarser. If it's not getting there, maybe you're pulling a complete 42 yield or 40 to 42 yield at 18 seconds, you're too coarse. You want to make your grind a little bit finer. Now you're getting into that zone of I'm pulling a really good shot. So the way to do this and way to pull the shot essentially manually is you're going to do the same thing you were going to do if you were going to set your volume size to these shot glasses, but you're just going to turn this on and then stop it when you're ready, when you're at the gram or the weight that you want to be at. So I'm going to go ahead and start it. I'm going to stop it at 37 grams because there's still 4 to 5 grams of water getting pushed through the portafilter. So when it's done, it'll be about that 42 yield that I like. Go ahead and set your timer. and wait. So our pressure right now is right about 3/4 the way up in the espresso range, which is what I found that works really well. So I got 43 yield, and it was probably about 28 seconds when it got there. So this is probably a pretty decent shot. I'm gonna see what it's like. No, it's pretty well balanced. Again, you're gonna be tasting it and trying to figure out the things that you want to change to pull a better shot. So yeah, go ahead and play with the settings, figure it out for yourself, but I just mainly wanted to show you to pull that manually. That way you have a little bit more control over the shot that you're pulling. So best of luck to you. If this video was helpful, let me know. If you still have questions and you didn't understand something I said, ask me a question. I would love to help you pull a better shot at home. Good luck.